Hello everyone, this is Science for Faith and it's for 7th and 8th grade. We're continuing on with our forestry chapter and today's lesson begins on page 449. I was actually going, since we have a huge experiment that's kind of through there about soil erosion, I'm going to try to cover maybe a couple lessons today. As you might already be aware, we're kind of halfway through the forestry chapter, which means we don't have many lessons, and then we're going to get to the point where you're ready for a test. So let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer, and then we'll start your forestry lesson or tree lesson or something. So Heavenly Father, we praise you and we thank you for the many blessings you give us every day, not just today, but what you've done for us in the past and for what you're going to do for us in the future. And Father, forgive us for not recognizing you. Forgive us for not just for sinning against you when we know what not to do, but we still do it. And Father, as you forgive us, help us to forgive others. And Father, we love you and we praise you and we give you all honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so we're on 449. I'm not probably going to go really into the carbon-oxygen cycle very much, mainly because if you're a 7th grader, you're going to have what's kind of, I don't want to call it physical science, but it's non-organic, non-living science next year. Because to this year you've been studying biology, which is living science. So trees do more than provide beauty for the earth. They're actually a very integral part of the environment. They basically are guarding your soil, guarding water, and different resources. They prevent soil erosions. They help prevent flooding. They help prevent drought. And they keep our streams actually clear and pure. And you can just know that we live in the mountain, the plateau, Cumberland Mountains here. There's all kinds of springs here. There's creeks that run through it. We are very blessed with water as a natural resource in as far as places that are like deserts or arid areas that don't have that. And what's pretty cool is even if I have a spring on my property, but one of the reasons why that spring runs clear isn't necessarily because what's happening to it underneath the earth. It's because there's so many trees and different things that's up on top of the earth's surface that's actually filtering and keeping that soil in place and allowing that water to come down through all that soil. So by the time it goes through maybe the sandstone and the limestone to get down to where it's going to come out of underneath, in my little cave system, then it's really clear. And if you didn't have all that, then you couldn't expect that spring to be clear. And you can just notice this yourself. If you're like around a creek, if it's really raining like it is today and it's a hard rain, then creeks and ponds get really muddy. But if it's a gentle rain or if it's not raining, they tend to clear out. So that just means the water is rushing so much, it's picking up soil and it's bringing it down through there, and it doesn't have time to filter through the soil and filter through all those stones in order to make it clear. But another important part of the forest is it does assist in photosynthesis. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a tree hugger, but a tree lover, not a tree hugger. I don't know. But of course, there's a lot of concern because we are losing forest, and most of the time, what people throw up is if we lose in the forest, we're losing oxygen. You have studied all the way back in chapter 2. You have also studied some microbiology and plankton, photosynthetic plankton. I think I said that wrong. That's where we get the majority of oxygen in our world, is from that plankton, which is in the ocean. But trees, even though they might not be our primary source of oxygen, they do help with photosynthesis, and they do so much more for us. So it goes to a section where it's going over photosynthesis. So forests are not main producers of oxygen for the planet, but they still contribute. But not only do forests produce oxygen, they also help remove carbon dioxide, and that might be where they have the big influence. Not really as oxygen producers, but really helping with taking carbon dioxide. So it controls the amount of carbon dioxide. Any system or an object that absorbs carbon dioxide from the environment like a tree does, is called a carbon sink, or simply a sink. An object that produces carbon dioxide is a carbon source. And of course, we suck in O2 and we blow out CO2. So we're basically a carbon source, whereas the trees are a carbon sink. Trees. So that's why I did that. Hey, it's not really as reflective like that. Maybe I should turn. We can just look at trees. So that's the 2/3 of terrestrial carbon, not counting rocks and soil, is stored in the carbon sinks that we call forest. As a tree grows, it captures carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It incorporates it into its tissues. And because of the long life of a forest, it accumulates carbon dioxide over decades. It never really releases that carbon dioxide. It just accumulates it. It lives a long time, and it doesn't release it. Then they go, in the closer look, it goes over the carbon-oxygen cycle. And that's just the perfect cycle God set up to where we're blowing out carbon dioxide. Plants need that. They take it in, and they give us oxygen, and we have that cycle. So basically, as you may remember, most living things need oxygen for cellular respiration. Carbon's one of the main 4 elements of living things. In fact, it's what we look at. If we find carbon, then that's basically telling us, okay, that's organic, or it's got some, it's a basic living, basic element of organic matter. Also, along with carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins, made up from all those things, they contain carbon chemically combined with other substances. In fact, if we just took our body is 18% carbon, more than any other element except oxygen. Then they continue to go over the carbon-oxygen cycle with this gorilla picture that they've got on page 450, so you can continue to look at that if you wish. So in addition to filtering the air, forests function as filters and regulators of our water supply. And that's why I've heard a geology professor that my husband had, would always talk about how we have clear water here in the Cumberland Plateau, that we have some of the cleanest water that there is. And it's because of all the filtering we have. It's because of our forest land. And then if you think, we also have such a cave system, as I've talked about, maybe not with you guys, but Tennessee is the most cavernous state in the nation, as in, that just means we've got more caves than anybody else. And it might be that Tennesseans just, if there's a hole in the ground, we're going to crawl in it and say, hey, that's a cave. Maybe we're just more adventurous and exploring. But that's why we have such good water. When rain falls, the canopy redistributes it to where it falls gently on the ground, and then water that stays on those branches and leaves will evaporate and return to the atmosphere. The canopy will also trap fog and allow it to condense and gently water the forest floor. Forests increase the ability of land to hold that water. A forest can hold 5 times its weight in water. So yes, don't worry about forests giving you super amounts of oxygen. What does it do for us? It's a carbon sink, and it holds water. And not only that, it provides that filtering for that water. The tree, it's a natural filter. It's a natural storage for water. The tree provides a cover to the soil. The cover layer allows water to be absorbed slowly into the soil. And as that cover decays, it actually enriches the soil. Used to, of course, we think about potting soil. Like, I need to go get some potting soil right now if I don't get plants in the ground this month. But, because I've got lots of flower pots. But back in the day, I know my own grandmother, she thought it was really stupid that you bought potting soil, because she knew where to get soil to put in her pots, and it was basically composted soil, but she didn't have a compost pile. She went into the woods or into the forest, and she dug some of that really good black dirt. And that black dirt is all this composted, naturally composted twigs, branches, the leaves, and all that stuff. So it provides nutrients to pots. because trees hold the soil and slow that flow of the water from the ground surface through the soil. The water from heavy rains don't rush through, and they don't take the soil with it. When trees are removed, the water just hits that soil and it rushes the soil into streams, and that runoff causes the rivers and streams to flood. And that's why for people who log, there's a lot of environmental concerns that they have to take place, especially if there's a natural source of a river or a creek or something like that. Sometimes they have to log a particular way so there's not runoff going into that soil. Trees also help regulate the weather, especially if you're in a place where there's not a windbreak, but they block the force of the wind. They actually cool the ground under them, and they protect it from possibly scorching. The canopy can protect saplings from snow damage by collecting snow up on the bigger branches. A forest not only protects the plants, but it also protects the animals, giving the animals food, giving them homes, shelter, a retreat that they can run up, which I don't know if you all watched it. I've watched this a dozen times because of my son. Have you all seen, I think it was out west somewhere, the squirrel and the bobcat? Like the squirrel starts going up a tree, the bobcat starts going up a tree, and the squirrel, having that small little brain, doesn't realize, hey, just keep going straight up, and the bobcat will eventually, you can get on a branch much smaller than the bobcat. They just start going round and round, and the bobcat eventually catches the squirrel. Squirrels aren't the brightest. So trees are one of our greatest renewable resources. If you want to know where I went to, I'm starting on page 452. That means it's a natural resource that can regenerate very quickly. For instance, a huge building product that we use is yellow pine. And a yellow pine can be harvested in about 20 years, from a sapling to where it's really tall, and then you can cut it down, make it into 2x4s or whatever we need for building in about 20 years. So although we can cut trees down, we can also regrow them, and much of our daily life depends on trees and on products we make from trees. Another really fast-growing tree that I've noticed is Tennessee state tree. Don't know if you remember that from third, fourth grade, whenever you took it. That's the tulip poplar. Those things grow really fast, really, really quickly, too. So more than 5,000 different products can be made from trees, including chemicals, paper products, fuel, poles, lumber, products from wood scraps. One that just comes to my mind because, you think paper, you think building products, but what you might not realize is that back in the day, when people did not have, you couldn't just go pick up some drugs, go get ibuprofen, go get this. People would make a willow bark tree. Don't get the weeping willow, it's a different willow. And boil it, and that tea and willow is a natural source of what you call aspirin, which is an NSAID. It's an non-steroid, anti-inflammatory drug. So that was so from a tree we get some drugs too. We also get fuel, poles, lumber, byproducts from wood scraps, and byproduct from wood scraps. You're thinking, what's a byproduct from wood scrap? Do any of you grill charcoal? Yeah. Do you know who invented that? Henry Ford, because he had all this wood scrap left over from the production of the cars, and he decided, let's make that into charcoal, all right? And that we can teach people how to barbecue and things like that. So harvesting the generous forest is a major industry. Each American uses enough paper and wood products per year to basically equal one pretty big tree. And that tree would be about almost 20 inches in diameter and about 33 feet tall. And especially here recently, what paper product has really been leaving the shelves and they've really required more of? Toilet paper. That comes from trees, right? So on page 453, you can look on this diagram. Don't just go flip. They're actually telling you products we get from these trees, whether it's from nuts, fruits, the foliage, the cordwood, the logs, the bark, the roots, different things that we get from trees. And it's just kind of interesting. Like some of you like, well, I don't get anything from trees. Would you like chewing gum? There's at least 2 different things that come from there for chewing gum. And if you look at the rosin, there's all kinds of stuff, for insulation, drugs. There's all kinds of drugs or products that we need from trees for drugs. Artificial hair, I don't think you need that. Bedding for animals, yeah, I think most of y'all could figure that one out. So go ahead and take a look at that, just at the different products we end up getting from those. So moving on to page 454. Like I said, we're kind of covering a couple of, I'm going to finish at harvesting the crop, and then we'll start there and move on to the next time. So wood is one of our most plentiful and most important and least expensive building materials. Don't know if you've ever looked into that fake wood stuff, and it's supposed to last forever. The stuff's super expensive, and my neighbor had a deck made in that fake stuff. I don't think it really worked as well, but that was just my opinion. Maybe it was cheap fake stuff. But it's the least expensive building material. It is strong, lightweight, elastic. It's durable, making it not only versatile, but it's also easy to work with. And we know that, sorry, this is a science teacher going crazy. We know that in the 1904, 1906 earthquake, I probably totally got that wrong, in San Francisco, you would think in an earthquake, ooh, this massive brick building, that's going to be great. And that's not what happened. That brick was so, solid, and so it just, there wasn't any give to it. Those brick buildings just fell down, and when a brick falls and hits you, you're liable to not survive it. But those beautiful painted ladies, the Victorian homes that they normally show pictures of, if you ever watch Full House, they always show that picture of those pretty Victorian homes that are painted pastel colors. Those were wooden homes, and they actually survived the earthquake because it's durable. It could actually give a little bit. The wood could, one way or the other. That doesn't necessarily help with the tornado, but that was one reason why I thought, okay, yeah, those homes are more durable. As an insulator, wood is 5 times more efficient than stone or masonry. Trees also provide all the wood we use, and they're very versatile. Some of our important chemicals that we get from wood are cellulose, lignin, and oils. The cellulose is converted into cellulose acetate, which is used in lots of products like some synthetic fabrics like rayon, sausage casings, which is disgusting, sports helmets. Then lignin is also used to produce vanilla extract, which is yummy for cookies and stuff, deodorants and dyes, and it's also used in some topical medications. The oils from trees are in many perfumes and essential oils. Flavors, fragrances like sandalwood, eucalyptus, peppermint. Peppermint? Okay, I guess you get the oil because peppermint's a little plant, and then you mix it in there. Trees also provide many jobs in addition to forestry and making products from trees. And like I said, that's a huge industry here in our county. There are also jobs from logging, tree planting, tree farming, and these jobs are necessary to ensure that trees remain the sustainable resource we currently enjoy. So I'm building up to about 20 minutes of time here. So I'm going to end there. Tomorrow we're going to start with harvesting the crop. I am going to film this today. So yes, I'm sorry. It's still a bad hair day, and you're going to see the same outfit. So I would really like to change it up for you. But that's probably not what's going to happen. So let's go ahead. We'll talk about harvesting the crop tomorrow. And then tomorrow's lesson is where we're just going to actually kind of go through a little bit this gallery of trees. But I'm not going to go over every single one. I'm going to let you do that on your own. So have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you later.